Hey everyone, it's Don G. Corleone here, and I am here with a brand new kind of video. And this kind of video is going to be for a multiple part series because this would be too long to make into one video. And it's going to be for the Don G. Corleone's updated physical media Blu-ray or DVD or VHS collection. I'm just calling it the physical media collection, the entire updated one. So yeah. These two shelves will be for the first video. As you can see right here. Yeah. And this is going to be a multiple part series because this would take too long to make. So, let's start off with this one right here. So, this is just rearranged in order. So, it just has them random order. Some of these I've had as a kid. Some of these I had bought myself. You know. So if there's a weird one in the collection, then you know. So, first one. I had this as a kid because I did watch this show as a kid. First, season 1. And I put them back here. Then these are 2 films in one. Cheered by a Dozen. Cheered by a Dozen 2. When it comes to these films, I don't mind Cheered by a Dozen 1. It's not that bad of a film. Easily, it has some funny moments, but it's kind of not my cup of tea. Cheered by a Dozen 2, I am not absolutely not a fan of whatsoever. It's basically just watching a badly written version of that John Candy Dan Aykroyd comedy where they went out camping. It's pretty much just a version of that. Then you got Paranorman, easily one of my favorite Leica films. Underrated classics. It's the Stuart Little Trilogy collection. Just these 2. This one I am not a fan of at all whatsoever, but these two are some of my favorite family movies, and easily some of my favorite CGI live action hybrid films of all time, and surprised no one really talks about them that much. I got this 4 film favorites collection of, Kangaroo Jack, Ant Bully, Racing Stripes, Daring Giants. When it comes to these films, I like Daring Giant. I like one of my favorite animated movies of all time. I don't think I'd watch it on this one now because I have the extended special edition that has a few deleted scenes restored. It's somewhere around here. I don't want to find it right now. And you got live action Charlotte's Web. Surprisingly, really sad as fuck film. It's kind of weird how this actually gets how the plot of this film is actually put in a family movie. Here's mine, ours. Well, you know what? I think I will get the Steelbook out for the first one of these because, I think I have the theatrical version on DVD, but now that I own the director's cut of this version, I think I now prefer the Steelbook. But because I have the sequel with me, I thought I'd bring out the Steelbook. RoboCop, the Steelbook edition, which bought this because this has the director's cut. As you know, I rewatched this Wednesday when I was watching that live stream on OCP Communications channel. And still easily one of the best sci-fi movies of all time. Nothing else can be said more. Just a fucking masterpiece start to finish. Because I bought this out because the next DVD I was getting to was RoboCop 2. Not as good as the first one, but still pretty decent nonetheless. I mean, there's still some good things about it. Peter Weller still to get some great performances. Murphy, you still got the R-rated gore in this one. This one is just not as memorable, but not too bad of a but occasion I'll turn on every once in a while, but this one I'll turn on lots of times. That one is a fucking masterpiece from start to finish. Alright. You'll go back there. And I can't find RoboCop 3 anywhere. I swore I had it somewhere. I think I did. Oh, wait a minute. Maybe I actually grew a brain and actually gave that fucking piece of shit away. Fuck RoboCop 3. I actually don't own it anymore. because that movie is a pile of dog shit. Yeah, I got Curious George, another underrated animated film. Saw that in theaters as a kid. The fucking Cat in the Hat. Ah, yeah, I knew I still had you. The worst Dr. Seuss movie ever made. You got this triple feature DVDs of Barnyard, the animated Charlotte's Web, which I watched in school, and Rango, easily by far my favorite Nickelodeon film, and easily one of my favorite Johnny Depp films of all time, and also another film that almost nobody really seems to need to really talk about that much. Just why? It's fucking awesome. Jimmy Neutron Boy Genius, familiar with the show, but not really that bad. Cinderella's Story, kind of an underrated childhood film. Alright, and now we're split on this duology. You have this live-action Scooby-Doo movies. Scooby-Doo 1, don't really like it, but I would say it's better than a lot of worse live-action cartoon hybrid reboots. But the one that actually is good, Scooby-Doo 2, Monsters Unleashed, underrated. Easily, it's not a masterpiece by any means, but it's an underrated guilty pleasure. The sequel, I think, is better. And honestly, to be fair, I don't think you really need to watch the first film to see the sequel, because it's kind of a separate standalone movie, and more in a way. They don't really mention the first film all that much, really. They don't really reference any bit of it. Like, there's no Isla Fisher in the film, and it actually can be viewed as a separate film. In fact, I honestly wish that was the first film instead. Yeah, Mr. Popper's Penguins. Flushed Away! Another favorite one, easily one of my favorite R-Man films, but sadly because it bombed so bad, they don't want to recognize it anymore. Like, come on, I always fucking like this movie. It's another fucking awesome film. You got a whole stacked cast of legends. Ugh, Garfield. Fuck out of here. March of the Penguins. Easily one of my favorite animal documentaries. And I'm not that big of a documentary person. Alright, you got Ferngully. Ferngully, The Last Rainforest, childhood classic. Then, you got, I definitely have seen this, but I still haven't unreally wrapped this one because I bought this during COVID and stuff. The Disaster Artist. Definitely another great film, and sadly, because of the whole James Franco allegation, that sadly was the last movie he did. And he never got to do any more films after that film. Definitely another great film from the 2010s. Alright. Here you are. Full Metal Jacket, an absolute classic. And definitely one of Stanley Kubrick's best films. And especially, I think the half I like more is kind of the half with R. Lee Ermey. A little more than the second half where they're in the war zone. I think the half with R. Lee Ermey is the most memorable. You have, and rest in peace, R. Lee Ermey. You have so many memorable lines from his character, holy Jesus, what is that? What the fuck is that? Or what have we got here? A fucking comedian. That's the half of the movie I like more. Bought this back up north. I don't think I've watched it yet, but Jerry Maguire, haven't watched it yet. All I know is that it has the iconic quote, "You hand me a hello." Well, okay, I'll get the box set for this one, but this is I'm trying to give this one away to Valley Village because now they have the extended versions. This is the theatrical versions of The Lord of the Rings. But there it is. You know what? I'll get them out. I now have the extended versions of The Lord of the Rings. Honestly, to be fair, I think I like the extended editions a lot more. To be fair, I think the extended editions are much more memorable. Yeah. Bought that during Christmas. Bought that during Christmas season once I got all my Christmas shopping finished. Now back to our normal piles. We got 1917, one of my favorite films of 2019. One of the better war films in a long time. You got easily my second favorite film of 2024, The Wild Robot. No doubt. I'm so glad we're getting a sequel to this. That's my second favorite film of 2024. And now you got Triple X, on one of Vin Diesel's most underrated films. Easily just one of the funnest action films of the 2000s. And definitely a pretty underrated watch. And let's just say I don't own any of the sequels because I despise State of the Union and I'm not the biggest fan of Return of Xander Cage. So I didn't bother wasting any of my time with those. I got Bullet Train, one of my favorite films of 2022. Still haven't unwrapped the packing yet. The Mummy. Definitely one of Brendan Fraser's best films. And honestly, the closest to those films that try to beat Indiana Jones, this was probably the closest to actually manage to actually succeed in actually being able to copy its style. I mean, being able to take inspo from its style. I have a sequel somewhere, but that's for another half of the video. You got Darkman. Now I know it's one of Sam Raimi's most underrated films. I still haven't watched it yet. Walk the Line, absolute classic. Definitely one of Joaquin Phoenix's best films. So that's true. The biography film of Johnny Cash is what it is. Well, you know what? I'll get the first film out as well because it's on this shelf somewhere since I have a sequel for this. You got The Expendables and The Expendables 2. And yeah, I like both these films. I like both these films. They're definitely nice little 80s styled action films that unite all those iconic action stars into one film. I think I like Expendables 1 a lot more. Expendables 2 is good, but there's times when it kind of gets a little clunky at times, but whatever, I still love both of them. And, I do not own Expendables 3 because I think it absolutely is a wasted PG-13 mess. And I do not own Expendables 4 because I think it's an utter piece of shit. That's why. That's why I only own 1 and 2. Expendables 4 is probably easily my worst fucking film of 2023. So I did not waste my time buying that shit. Because why the fuck would I want to do that? Alright. Apocalypto, one of Mel Gibson, a very underrated Mel Gibson film about the Mayans and the last few days they had. And honestly, to me, that's honestly the actually good version of 10,000 BC we should have got. The Fifth Element, another great 90s masterpiece with Bruce Willis. I definitely one of Luc Besson's biggest masterpieces. Nothing else can be said. You got the Men in Black trilogy, which I love the first one, and I don't mind the third one. I definitely decently also enjoy the third one. Don't mind the second one, and I despise the fourth one. But the first one is easily the best of all of them. Bought this back up north. Still have not watched it. Howard the Duck. I have still not watched it yet, but I've heard it's apparently one of those hated films of the 80s. Alright, so what's going to be next? So, well, we're on to that part of the shelf now, so I guess we can do it like this. Alright. Cobra! Easily one of Stallone's best flicks yet. Oh, speaking of Sylvester Stallone, we have another Stallone flick. Cliffhanger! One of Rennie Harlin's best film, and also another epic Stallone flick from the 90s. And now, True Lies, the last good film James Cameron did that was actually worth a shit. Before he became a big fucking sellout. Oh, speaking of James Cameron, The Abyss, his most underrated movie. And now, oh yeah, Kill Bill Volume 1 and Kill Bill Volume 2 double feature. I would say I like both of them equally, but I think if I had to pick which one I prefer, I think I prefer Volume 1 the most, because Volume 1 is just batshit crazy insane. It's just epic entertaining from start to finish. Kill Bill Volume 2 does kind of get a bit slow at times. Kind of gets a little bit too calm for the second half. Like, I kind of wish Volume 1 was the more slow one. I kind of wish Volume 2 was the more crazy one. That's just me, though. Dread! One of the best action films of the 2010s. Hell fuck yeah. And to me, this is honestly the true RoboCop reboot. The actually better version of that. Better RoboCop reboot, in a way. Total Recall! Easily another great Arnold Schwarzenegger flick. And definitely another one of his best roles yet. And I have the remake somewhere, but I think the remake is fucking trash. You got the Lethal Weapon collection, which I've only seen the first two, but I definitely love the first one, and honestly think I like the second one way more. But I still think the first two are definitely great films. I still need to get around to watching 3 and 4. By far the number one best film Luc Besson has done. The Professional. Love this movie. Definitely Luc Besson's best film, and definitely one of the greatest films of all time. Like, now I'm a little bit clunky with the whole Natalie Portman and Jean Reno subplot thing. Like, I kind of wish it was kind of a more father-daughter relationship instead, but that's kind of a bit of a weird thing to do. So, alright, our next one is Pitch Black. Definitely one of Diesel's best, definitely one of the underrated Vin Diesel films. I got Starship Troopers, another underrated classic from Paul Verhoeven. Childhood classic, Small Soldiers. What can I say? Easily, always loved watching this on VHS, and apparently it's a signed copy from Joe Dante. It was, it's pretty much like the Toy Story, Gremlins, kind of combined into one. It's kind of the toy version of Gremlins in a way. Alright. Still have yet to watch this, but I know the actor is in the Ted films, so... Flash Gordon. Flash. Savior of the universe. And then... on to Denzel Washington, Man on Fire, definitely one of Tony Scott's best films. And rest in peace, Tony Scott. Who is easily one of the best directors of all time, but definitely one of Denzel Washington's best films. And now, a franchise where I only own and recommend the first one. Taken, the unrated version. The unrated version is actually honestly, the unrated version is better. And also, only the first one is the only one worth watching. Because I don't own Taken 2 or 3, because they both suck ass. So why should I own those movies? And correct. You got the Equalizer trilogy. Now that I've earlier mentioned Denzel Washington, Man on Fire, Equalizer 1 and 2, Equalizer 3. I decently like this trilogy. I like the first one more. The second one is alright. And the third one I think is an improvement over the second one. Now you got Martin Scorsese's biggest masterpiece, Goodfellas. Definitely one of the greatest gangster movies of all time. And now you're on to the last 5 of this pile, so let's just bring up this pile right now. You got the, I'll bring it, you should be out first. The Jurassic Park collection, which is pretty much consists of Jurassic Park 1, The Lost World, Jurassic Park 3. Well, Jurassic World is in this collection, but guess what? I already own Jurassic World on DVD, so here's Jurassic World. Now, like, I have Fallen Kingdom or Dominion somewhere, but I'll get those out in another part because I have a lot of DVDs to own, and that's what this would take way too long to cover into one. So yeah, now when it comes to Jurassic Park, the first one easily one of the greatest films of all time. The Lost World, I think, is an underrated sequel and probably the best of all the sequels, because when it comes to the rest of them, I do not like Jurassic Park 3, and that's probably never going to change. Jurassic World is alright, but kind of rehashes too much nostalgia a lot of times. Fallen Kingdom, I do not like whatsoever, and I was not a fan of Dominion. And I've not watched the unrated version of it, and I've not watched the extended version of it yet. You have the Daniel Craig Bond collection, which consists of Casino Royale, Skyfall, Quantum of Solace, Spectre. I think of the ones I like, I think I'd say Casino Royale and Skyfall are the best ones. And, whatever. I have No Time to Die on Blu-ray somewhere. No Time to Die, I think, is the third best, and I think the least enjoyable are Spectre and Quantum of Solace. And now you have two Christopher Nolan films. You have Interstellar, and you have Dunkirk. When it comes to these films, I think, like, Christopher Nolan's actually great as a director. I actually have a whole collection. I actually have a lot of his films, honestly. So yeah, Interstellar, I saw that in the theater. Absolutely loved it. Dunkirk, I've only seen one time, but didn't mind it. Not one of my favorites from the director, but not too bad of a movie nonetheless. Alright, now we're on to this shelf. So let's get out what starts off with a box set. This Star Trek Originals collection, which consists of all the motion picture, The Wrath of Khan, The Search for Spock, The Voyage Home, The Final Frontier, The Undiscovered Country, Generations, First Contact, Insurrection, and Nemesis. When it comes to all these films, like, I think I like Voyage Home, Wrath of Khan, Final Frontier easily. My least favorites are Insurrection, Nemesis, and I think the worst one of all of them is Star Trek Generations, which I think sucks ass. Then you have My Dog Skip. Another one I'm surprised is really for kids because this film is also depressing as fuck. Then you have the Hobbit. The Hobbit box set, this mediocre letdown, with the exception of this one, which I think is an underrated prequel, but the rest of them, Desolation of Smaug is mediocre, and I do not like Battle of the Five Rivers whatsoever. Then you have another underrated animated film, Titan AE. Very underrated gem. And you have a collection of, blockbuster hits, which consists of the 2009 Star Trek, Transformers 1, G.I. Joe, Rise of Cobra. Well, I'll talk more about this one when I get to that Blu-ray. This one, not alright reboot. Rise of Cobra, no. Not a G.I. Joe person. Secret Window, I just reviewed this, and I'd say it's a film that, it starts off great in the first half, but then, once, you learn more about this shooter guy, the film does kind of fall apart, and honestly, the whole twist reveal, once revealed that Johnny Depp's character himself is actually Shooter, his other personality, and he came up with the name to basically shoot, as in shoot Maria Bello's character. I already knew that twist was coming a long way away, so it did not really feel that great for me. And so, the second and third acts are where it just falls apart, and it just does not pick up, it just does not get better from there. The Bourne Collection, where I like the first three, and I'm not a fan of the rest of them. You have, of course, this 4 film favorites collection, which consists of some bad films, which Gothica, I don't mind that film. Queen of the Damned, I think sucks. Dreamcatcher, I think sucks. Ghost Ship, a shitty version of Event Horizon. I have the Event Horizon Blu-ray. I'll get to that part. I'll get to that later in another part of this whole entire series. You got Mechanic Resurrection. I have the sequel on Blu-ray somewhere, but I have the first film on Blu-ray somewhere, but I like the first film a lot better. Then you have, the Back to the Future trilogy. All 3 of the movies. I like all these movies, and I know a lot of people like the first one better, but this is going to sound weird. I think I like Back to the Future Part 2 a lot better. I just kind of do. I just think Back to the Future, I'm one of the few that likes Back to the Future 2 a little better, but I like all 3 of the movies. Alright, well, this one we're on an entire franchise of them. Okay, so Furious 7 is somewhere around there, but I found the first 6 of these, so Fast and the Furious 1. Too Fast, Too Furious. Tokyo Drift. Fast and Furious, or it should be called Fast and Furious 4. Fast 5. Fast 6. Oh, they fell. Stay on there. Now it comes to that. The series that became a big fucking cash cow. So, I would have to say, when it comes to these movies, I like Furious 7. I like Fast and the Furious, the first film. I like Fast 5. I like Fast 6. And, well, I think Fast and Furious 4 is okay. And Tokyo Drift, Too Fast, Too Furious can actually all kiss it. Because I don't like those two at all. And when it comes to the stuff that came after Furious 7, I did not buy Fate of the Furious because I'm not a fan of it at all. I do have Hobbs and Shaw somewhere. Nice little film. I think it's a film I would rather watch, though, as, well, an alternate timeline, a different kind of film just with the characters' names. And, of course, you also have that big shitfest called Fast 9, which, after I saw that film in theaters, I was like, yeah, I'm fucking done with this franchise. It's dead. I do not want to see any more films. But guess what? We have Fast X, which I did not go see, because I'm just done with that series. That series needs to die. It's getting annoying. Like, they seriously just will not stop milking that fucking thing to death. Well, now that I have all these, time to guess. I have to get the Rocky films out and show those. Where's Rocky 4? Rocky 4... No, Rocky 5. I was looking for Rocky 5. I already have Rocky 4 on this with me. I just buried Rocky 5 because it's the worst one of all of them. You have the first 5 Alright, I'm just going to have to show the first 5 Rocky movies first. Rocky, one of the best boxing movies of all time. Rocky 2, a great sequel. Not as great as Rocky 1, but also very great. Rocky 3, good. Kind of a bit of a step down. Rocky 4, I'm going to be honest here. You know what? I'm going to be honest here. After I rewatched it during Christmas, I used to find it one of the weaker ones, but it's starting to kind of grow on me a little bit. Rocky 5. My least favorite of the series, but then we have the actually good Rocky 5. Rocky Balboa. The actually proper 5th film we should have had in the first place. Alright, I guess you can... It's kind of cheating a little bit, but... because I have all the movies, I might as well just get them all out. Alright. Next up, we have the Creeds. We have Creed 1. I'm gonna be honest, thinking about this a little more. It's kind of stepped down a little bit. Creed 2, definitely kind of a little better than the first one now. And then you have Creed 3, which actually was which also was kind of a bit of a surprise, in a way. Alright, you know what? Rocky 5, go to the back with all the other bad sequels where you belong. Don't like. Alright. We have 2 modern horror comedies. You have last year's Lisa Frankenstein. This didn't do well at the box office, but I actually like this one. Has some of that Corpse Bride-like feel to it. And you got Renfield, the film that also did not do well at the box office, but actually is one of my favorites of 2023. It was nice to see Nick Cage actually finally get to play Dracula. And because, well, this is from the director of Lisa Frankenstein. Jennifer's Body, still have not watched it. Juno, bought this up in Penticton, still have not watched it. Big, have not watched it. Alright, you got Shanghai Noon. I definitely saw this film, and I think I would definitely say I saw this as a kid, and I definitely found it very funny. Haven't rewatched it just yet. Still have not seen the sequel, Shanghai Nights. Got that thoughts. Not now. Alright. Sorry about that, guys. Alright, you got Blow. Definitely one of the best Johnny Depp movies. Another one of the best Johnny Depp films. This was one of those films that came out before Pirates of the Caribbean really made him a big star. Got Willy's Wonderland. Pretty much, from what I heard, it's apparently a much better version of the Five Nights at Freddy's movie. I'll try to revisit it this year. I'll try to visit it this year. Now that we are on to the last 2 of this pile, it's time to get out these last 2 so we can put those back on the shelf. You have a Jim Henson double feature, The Dark Crystal and Labyrinth, both childhood classics. And you know, the prequel series, The Dark Crystal Age of Resistance, is also really great. And when they found out they canceled the show before they could even make a second season, I was fucking pissed off. And now, you have people are a bit upset. Dropped it. You have people are a little bit obsessed with, but personally, I like it, but I'm not too obsessed with it as much as a lot of people really are. Scott Pilgrim vs. the World. Now, I think it's a good film, but not really something I'd say I would be really. It's not one I'd be as obsessed with as everybody else is. It's just a good film. That's all there is to it. Alright, so now this one, okay, this one is pretty much a long pile. Oh boy. This is going to be a little hard to manage. Because I have just about, well. Okay. Alright. This is the entire MCU collection. Well, with some missing. Okay, actually, no, it's mostly the Infinity Saga and the epilogues. Right there, well, some of these I don't really consider. Alright, whatever, I'll just get on with showing the films. Iron Man, the first film, absolute, easily amazing, one of the best superhero films ever. I love the first Iron Man. The Incredible Hulk, easily to me the most underrated film, easily the best Hulk film to me. That was the first MCU film I saw in the theater. Iron Man 2, not really that great, not as great as Iron Man 1, but honestly it's one of the weaker MCU movies that you kind of still have to watch because it kind of sets up the Avenger Initiative, it introduces Nick Fury, introduces Black Widow, introduces War Machine, so it does have a purpose to exist. The First Thor, another underrated MCU movie. You have Captain America, the First Avenger, another very easily the most underrated MCU movie, no doubt, and definitely one of the best ones. And then you get to the one where they finally all team up for the first time, The Avengers. I saw this in the theaters opening weekend. Easily just a blast from start to finish. Then you got one of the better MCU films that people don't like, but after Endgame, this one is and especially after a worse Thor movie that came out in 2022, this has gotten better. Thor: The Dark World. This is not that great, but I would rather watch it over the worst fourth one that came out. I would watch over that any damn day. Oh, Iron Man 3? I don't own it because I hate it. And plus, Iron Man 3 you could even just skip and you would literally miss nothing because guess what? The rest of the Infinity Saga doesn't really mention much of the events of that film at all. Plus, Iron Man's still in Age of Ultron anyway, so it's a film that's not really canon in my eyes. You have Captain America: The Winter Soldier. I think this is easily the best solo MCU movie yet. And the best Captain America movie. Oh, and this one was a big, big surprise. The Guardians of the Galaxy. This is a film that nobody had hope for. They weren't that well known of a team. People thought this was going to fail. Then the movie came out and everyone loved it, including me. I saw this in IMAX while I was traveling all across Canada. One of the best theater experiences of all time. Now you got a Blu-ray, this one. Avengers: Age of Ultron. I didn't really like this one at first when I first saw it. I wasn't that too fond of it, but honestly, over the years of progress, it has kind of started to warm up on me a little bit. It's still a good film, but I'd say it's kind of my least favorite Avengers film. The first Ant-Man, easily the best of the Ant-Man films. It's not really saying a lot though, because the follow-ups aren't that great. Captain America: Civil War, I would say, is the most overrated Captain America film, but it's still a pretty good film nonetheless. And honestly, it's kind of the other half of the second Avengers movie. Doctor Strange, I like that film, but sadly I don't own it, so I can't show it. I still need to buy it. You have Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, not as great as Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 1. That's still a pretty great film nonetheless, but it's still a pretty good sequel nonetheless. Oh, well, you know what? I'll get this one out. Might as well. Spider-Man Homecoming, my least favorite Spider-Man film of all time. Ugh. I'm not a fan of that film whatsoever. Go here. Thor Ragnarok, easily the best Thor movie of all time. Easily the best Thor movie in my eyes. You have Black Panther, not really too big on this one, to be fair. I mean, it's pretty good. Rest in peace, Chadwick Boseman. I mean, I just wasn't really too big of a fan of this movie. Mainly because of how bad the CGI really was in the later fight, in the final scene. Then you got the best MCU movie, Avengers: Infinity War. Yeah, my favorite film of the Infinity Saga. Saw that in the theater 3 times. And I remember just being crazy, waiting for like Endgame related stuff throughout the entire 2018. Back then, we only had to worry about the spoilers for that. Ant-Man and the Wasp is kind of really just there to kind of set up the Quantum Realm and kind of just to cheer fans up after the devastating ending of Infinity War. Then, Captain Marvel came next. Oh yeah, I don't own it because it sucks. Why else? So why the fuck would I buy that movie? It's trash. Moving on, okay, I'll put those two back there. One of the few steelbooks I own, Avengers: Endgame. Not as great as Infinity War, I would say, because of some problems like with Professor Hulk and Fat Thor. But definitely to me the true end to the MCU. But there are some epilogues. You have the first epilogue, Spider-Man: Far From Home. And the film we should have had instead of Captain Marvel. We should have had this before Endgame. But this took, because of COVID, this took forever to come out. Black Widow. Then he had this other film that came out called Black Widow, which I am not a fan of. No, then he had this other film that came out after Black Widow called Shang-Chi, which I'm not a fan of anymore. Alright, our next one is going to be... Alright, the one we got after Shang-Chi, though. Oh, yeah. Then there was Eternals. That's the worst MCU movie ever made, so I did not buy that. But we got after Eternals was the compilation of all the Spider-Man. Spider-Man No Way Home, which I also saw this in theaters 3 times. It was definitely nice to see Andrew and Toby again. Alright. Then, 2022, I didn't buy the stuff that came out in 2022 because none of those films were good. Then, of course, you had this, then you had Guardians of the Galaxy 3, which I did watch. It was alright, but it's definitely one that's not really that great as people made it out to be. The first 2 were still better. And now we're on to the last bit of this shelf, where you have some more Spider-Man films, and one that's not a Spider-Man film. Daredevil, the director's cut, the 2003 version, which I will admit, yes, I actually do like this movie, and I don't care what people say about it. I think Daredevil 2003 actually is absolute kick-ass. That is the director's cut of the movie. That is. I'm not really big on the theatrical stuff. I feel like the director's cut is the movie we should have had in the first place. Now we got the other older Spider-Man films. Spider-Man 2002, definitely one of the greatest non-MCU Marvel films. But guess what? The sequel, Spider-Man 2, is even better. That's definitely by far the best Marvel film of all time. Then you have, guess what? The one everybody likes to shit on, but I think is actually underrated. Spider-Man 3. I don't care what people say about this. I like it. I think it's better than many worse Marvel films. Like the Zoniverse shit. And then you have the first Andrew Garfield film, The Amazing Spider-Man, which, I'll admit, I think Andrew is actually a pretty underrated Spider-Man. Easily. Sadly, though, Sony kept screwing with his version of the character, so we didn't really get to have his series feed completes. And I did not own Amazing Spider-Man 2, but I have kind of slightly started to warm up to it. I think maybe I'll still buy it. I think I might still buy that one. So, yeah. That's going to be it for the first half of this whole entire series. Stay tuned for the other parts to come. And if you like this, want to see more, don't forget to subscribe to Don G. Corleone.